Näcken. In Swedish folk tradition, there is a very old belief that all waters have spiritual entities and rulers. This stems from the Old Norse belief where giants and trolls lurked under the surface and in the depths. Rather, it was running, still, or stagnant waters. Näcken was one of those chthonic aqua beings. He was mentioned for the first time in literature in the Icelandic La Nama book from the 13th century, where it was told that the spirits of the river took sheep as offerings and that Näcken could foretell about the future. Näcken is a lone, masculine ruler spirit, known by many names, who is found in running waters such as rivers, streams, creeks, and brooks, but more rarely in tarns, lakes, and oceans as well. Bridges and watermills were often told to be the dwellings of Näcken. He was therefore sometimes called a mill ruler. He is, in some traditions, considered to be one of Lucifer's fallen angels. Following assorted folk tales, he might appear in the form of a little boy, a man, or an old man with a beard carrying a lantern, and seldom as the naked, beautiful man that artists like to portray him as. He is said to be an old, evil being with long hair that floats around in the water just under the surface, and then disappears into the depths. He is other times explained to often wear gray clothes and a red hat, and is described to have strange features like a big crooked nose, only one eye in the middle of his forehead, big glowing eyes like half moons, or to be a man who has a horse's hoof instead of a foot on one leg. Näcken seems to like to manifest himself as different animals, and his most known theriomorphic shape is the horse. And depending on different sources, the horse can either be white, gray, or black, but it is also told that he can take the shape of a dog, a cat, an eel, crayfish, a pike, with an unusually big mouth, or often a skinned foal or calf. Sometimes Näcken can have the rear end of a horse, and other times he can be covered with fish scales. Näcken is also called Stromtussen and is connected to the bird called the white-throat dipper, who lives by the waters, preferably by rivers, and is an exceptionally good swimmer and diver. It is believed to be personified as Näcken himself. It is also a common belief that Näcken can take any form, from something suspicious moving in the water, to a light in the woods or by the lake, to a shiny item laying in the bottom of a creek. This made people very aware of the ominous omens near waters. Näcken, in his function, could be compared to the Norse Thursian water giantess Ran, who ascends from the dark depths with her net, invented by Loki, to catch people and pull them down into her chasm. But instead of a net, Näcken uses his charm to lure women with an instrument, often a violin, on which he plays his magical music. This aspect of Näcken was strongly connected to Djävulen, since music and dancing were the devil's sinful inventions. There were many folk tales about how Näcken taught people to play his magical music in exchange for specific offerings. Sometimes Näcken taught a folk musician to play his infamous Näckens polska on violin, very similar to the tales about the devil's polska. It was such an enchanting song that the folk musician could not stop playing it, and ever more people joined in dancing to its magical tunes out of the forest and down by the water. Even the tables and chairs danced to it. It is said that they all danced themselves to death, unless someone cut the strings off the violin. Thus, he was taught to use his music to lure people under his control, so hearing music in the forest was analogous to being close to Näcken. According to different traditions, he was seen as very dangerous and being connected to death, illness, and bewilderment. He was particularly treacherous towards women and children. It was believed that if Näcken showed himself, either by people's houses, in the woods, or by waters, it was an ill omen, telling that somebody would get sick or drown shortly. Näcken could also swim through the drinking water and make people sick, causing an illness that was known as Näcken's bite. To illustrate, if you had inhaled water when out swimming and got sick from it, it was most certainly Näcken who had bitten you. Leaving offerings in a nearby lake was one way to seek a remedy for Näcken's bite. You could also seek answers at the river by asking Näcken where the illness derives from. Since he was feared by common folk, it was believed that Näcken was always out to pull people under the water and drown them or make them ill by fastna. If you were out swimming and you got a cramp, it was believed that it was Näcken trying to pull you under and drown you and suck your blood through your nose. Similarly, it was also believed that if some of your blood fell into the water or if you urinated in the water, Näcken gained power over you and could take you. People even experienced having been bitten by Näcken, which left big blue marks on their bodies, and even saw Näcken sitting on the shoulders of swimming people. Consequently, there were common rituals people performed before entering the water to make sure they bound Näcken so he could not have any power over them. They tried to get Näcken out of the water or the area where they were swimming, and steel was known to bind Näcken. Normally, they would stick a knife or a needle into the sand just by the shoreline, throw a rock vertically into the water and spit in the water. Together with a simple magical formula, Näck, Näck, bind the one, not me. Although Näcken was feared by many, he was also very loved by many who did not fear him, and these people keenly believed Näcken to be a benevolent water entity who was primarily eager and happy to teach people his magical arts. This tells us that Näcken is very willing to teach people his arts under the right circumstances. He can teach you to play all kinds of instruments. However, under the wrong circumstances, he could end up trying to pull you down into the turbulent currents of the river because of one's irreverence. Bakahest is the name of Näcken in the southern parts of Sweden, where Näcken shows up as a horse near a meadow, lake, or river. He lures people, often children, to sit on his back, and the more people crawling up on his back, the longer the horse becomes. Finally, when everybody has climbed up on his back, he runs down into the water and dives in, pulling all the people down into the depths to drown. Some folktales have completely replaced Näcken with the devil, who lures people down into his devil hole on a black horse. Already, in the Norse Þursakyngi saga, we have seen that evil Loki in disguise of a horse is luring away Svadilfari. Many of the folktales about Bakahest say that the mentioning of his name or a Christian symbol will free people from Näcken's power. They will be thrown off his back and he runs away. A common tale tells about a child who was too short to sit on the horse's back, and he could not speak well, so by mistake he said something like, "I'm not neck enough," instead of saying, "I'm not tall enough," and the child was thereby saved. It seems, like Näcken, in certain folktales, Bakahest cannot stand hearing his own name. Other tales have the motive of catching the Bakahest, either to use him as a working horse until a person who does not know him to be Näcken sets him free by mistake, or Näcken lets himself be seized to lure the capturer into the water and drown him. Tales are also told about many neckar, analogous to the Skogsrå, each territory like an ocean, lakes, rivers, etc., had its own rulers known as neck. The folk tale about Näcken and the scythe is one of the tales which enlightens us about this. It says Näcken was looking for a job on a field, and the only payment Näcken wanted from the farmer for all his labor was a scythe, which he could use as a weapon against his rival, who was a neck from the lake next to his own. This is only an excerpt from the Näcken chapter in Ekortu's book Svartkonst. If you want to learn more about the magic and calling upon Näcken, you can read further about Näcken in his book. Thank you all for joining me on this journey while we discuss Näcken. If you want to learn more about Swedish folklore, magic, Þursakyngi, Svartkonst, come back and join us again. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. We appreciate it very much. It helps us to keep making these videos. Take care.